I cheated and lost everything. The night I destroyed my own life, it was raining. Not the loud kind of rain that crashes against windows and demands attention. It was the quiet kind. The kind that whispers against the glass like a secret too heavy to carry. I remember staring at those droplets, racing down the window of my car, wondering how something so small could leave such long trails behind. Just like me, I sat outside my house for almost 20 minutes, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles had turned pale. The porch light was on. She always left it on for me. Sarah. My wife. My home. I could see her silhouette through the curtains. She was probably in the kitchen, maybe reheating dinner for the third time. She used to complain about it in a playful way. "You'll get ulcers eating cold food every night," she would say, placing a plate in front of me. I swallowed hard. Tonight, I wasn't late because of work. Tonight, I was late because I was a coward. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. I didn't need to look at it to know who it was. Maya. The mistake that didn't feel like a mistake when it began. I turned the phone face down. For weeks, I had convinced myself that it wasn't betrayal, that it was just a distraction, that men were complicated, that marriage sometimes needed space. I had wrapped my guilt in excuses until it looked almost harmless. But guilt doesn't disappear. It waits, and it grows teeth. When I finally stepped out of the car, the rain kissed my face like a warning. Each step toward the front door felt heavier than the last. I unlocked it quietly, as if silence could erase what I'd done. Sarah looked up from the dining table. She smiled. That smile, it was soft, trusting. Completely unaware that the man she loved had already set fire to everything they built. "You're drenched," she said gently, standing up. "Why didn't you take an umbrella?" I couldn't answer. She walked closer, brushing rainwater from my jacket with her hands. Those same hands that had once trembled when I slid a ring onto her finger. "You look tired," she whispered. "Rough day." "Yes." "A rough day lying." "A rough day pretending." "A rough day choosing someone else over the woman who chose me every single day." "Just work," I muttered. She studied my face for a moment longer than usual. Something flickered in her eyes. A question. A doubt. Sarah was many things, but she was not foolish. "Dinner's warm," she said finally. We sat across from each other. The clinking of cutlery sounded louder than it should have. I couldn't look at her for long. Every time I did, my chest tightened. She started talking about her day. About the neighbor's new puppy. About how the sink was leaking again. About simple things. Normal things. Things that belong to a normal marriage. I nodded when required. Forced small smiles. Then my phone buzzed again. This time, it was louder, more insistent. Sarah's eyes dropped to the table where my phone lay. "Are you going to get that?" she asked. My throat went dry. "It's nothing." Another buzz. She reached for it before I could. The world slowed. I saw her thumb swipe across the screen. I saw her eyes scan the message. I saw the exact second her expression changed. Confusion. Then disbelief. Then something far worse. Pain. The message was simple. I miss you already. Tonight was perfect. When can I see you again? The heart emoji looked like blood. Sarah didn't speak immediately. She just stared at the screen, as if reading it again might change the words. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Finally, she lifted her eyes to me. Her voice, when it came, was barely above a whisper. Who is Maya? I had rehearsed explanations in my head. I had built elaborate lies. But under her gaze, all of them collapsed. She's someone from work. Sarah's hands started to shake. Someone from work doesn't text you like this. Silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. Did you? She couldn't finish the sentence. I closed my eyes for a second. That was all the confirmation she needed. Her chair scraped loudly against the floor. As she stood up, the sound pierced through me. How long? She asked, her voice trembling now. A few weeks. She laughed. It wasn't humor. It was heartbreak cracking open. A few weeks, she repeated. While I was planning our anniversary trip. While I was telling my mother how lucky I am. Each word felt like a stone being thrown at me. I never meant for it to. To what? She snapped, tears spilling freely now. To hurt me. To happen. To ruin us. I had no answers. Because there were none. She pressed a hand against her chest, as if trying to physically hold herself together. Was I not enough? She asked quietly. That question. It shattered something inside me. You were always enough, I said quickly. This wasn't about you. But it is, she whispered. It always is. I moved toward her, but she stepped back. Don't. One word. One boundary. One distance that felt wider than oceans. I gave you everything, she said. My trust. My future. My name. Her tears fell faster now. And you gave yourself to someone else. The rain outside grew heavier, as if the sky itself had given up pretending. I made a mistake, I said weakly. She shook her head. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is burning dinner. This... Her voice broke. This is a choice. And she was right. I had chosen. Every message. Every meeting. Every lie. I had chosen. She walked past me toward the bedroom. I stood frozen, listening to drawers opening. The sound of a suitcase being pulled from the closet. Panic surged through me. Sarah, wait. She appeared in the doorway, her face pale but determined. I can't stay here tonight, she said. I can't look at you and not picture her. The weight of what I had done finally settled fully onto my chest. It was suffocating. Please, I whispered. We can fix this. She looked at me as if I were a stranger. Some things, she said softly, don't go back to the way they were. She walked to the front door. I followed helplessly. When she reached for the handle, she paused. Without turning around, she asked, "Did you love her?" The truth hovered between us. "No," I said. She nodded once. "That almost makes it worse." And then she left. The door closed gently. Not slammed. Not violently. Just quietly. Like the rain. I stood alone in the house we built together, surrounded by memories that suddenly felt like accusations. Her mug on the counter. Her shoes by the door. Her laughter echoing in rooms that no longer felt like home. My phone buzzed again. Maya. I didn't answer. Because in that moment, I understood something with brutal clarity. I hadn't just cheated. I had broken the one person who never would have broken me. And I had no idea how to get her back. The house felt unfamiliar without her breathing in it. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on our bed. No. My bed now. And stared at the ceiling, listening to the rain fade into a hollow silence. Her pillow still carried the faint scent of her shampoo. I turned my face into it, inhaling desperately, as if I could breathe her back into existence. Morning came without mercy. Her side of the closet was half empty. The hangers looked like bones. I went to work because routine felt safer than thinking. But routine betrayed me too. Every corner of the office reminded me of how this began. Maya worked in marketing. She was laughter in a gray building. Confidence wrapped in perfume. The first time we stayed late together, it was innocent. Or at least I told myself it was. "You look exhausted," she had said, leaning against my desk. "Marriage does that," I joked. She smiled in a way that felt like permission. Back then, it felt harmless. A compliment here. A lingering look there. Messages that started professional and ended personal. Now, sitting in the same office, those memories felt disgusting. My phone lit up again. "Maya, why aren't you answering me? Is everything okay? Everything okay?" I almost laughed. I walked to her department before I could think better of it. She looked up when she saw me, relief washing over her face. "There you are," she said, standing. I was worried. Her hand reached for mine automatically. I pulled away. Her smile faded. "What's wrong?" "She knows." The words tasted bitter. Maya's eyes widened. "Knows what?" I stared at her. "Don't," I said quietly. "Don't pretend." Silence settled between us, thick and uncomfortable. "She saw the message," I continued. "She left." Maya's face shifted from shock to something more complicated. Guilt, maybe. Or fear. "I didn't mean for that to happen," she whispered. "Neither did I. But meaning doesn't undo reality." "I can't do this anymore," I said. Her expression hardened slightly. "So that's it. You're just going to run back to her?" I hesitated. Because that was exactly what I wanted. "She's my wife," I replied. "And what am I?" Maya asked, her voice rising. The answer was cruel in its simplicity. "A mistake." The word landed heavily between us. She stepped back as if I had slapped her. "You didn't think I was a mistake when you were in my apartment." She shot back. Each sentence was a reminder of my betrayal. I was selfish, I admitted. I wanted attention. I wanted something different. And I gave it to you. Wes. The honesty felt brutal. But it wasn't real. I continued. It was an escape. Her eyes filled with tears now. You said you felt alive with me. I had. And that was the problem. I confused excitement with happiness, I said. They're not the same. She looked at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. So you're choosing her. I should have never stopped choosing her. I turned and walked away before she could respond. Each step felt like dragging chains. When I reached my car, my hands were shaking. I called Sarah. It rang, and went to voicemail. I didn't know what to say when the beep sounded. Sarah, it's me. I ended it. I ended everything with her. I know that doesn't fix what I did. I know I don't deserve another chance. But I'm asking anyway. Please, talk to me. My voice cracked on the last word. I hung up and rested my forehead against the steering wheel. Hours passed. No reply. I drove to her sister's apartment that evening. The hallway smelled like detergent and someone else's dinner. My heart pounded as I knocked. Her sister opened the door, her expression instantly cold. What are you doing here? I need to see her. She crossed her arms. You've done enough. I know, I said quietly. Please. She studied me for a moment, then stepped aside reluctantly. Sarah was sitting on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, staring at nothing. When she saw me, something inside her shut down further. You shouldn't be here, she said softly. I ended it. I blurted out. It's over. She didn't react the way I hoped. Instead, she asked, did you think that was the only problem? Her voice wasn't angry anymore. It was tired. I broke it off. I repeated helplessly. You broke us? She corrected. The room felt too small. I love you, I said, stepping closer. It didn't mean anything. She flinched. Stop saying that, she whispered. If it meant nothing, why risk everything? I had no answer that wouldn't sound pathetic. Her sister quietly left the room, giving us space that felt fragile. I keep replaying it in my head. Sarah continued, her voice trembling. You with her. Laughing the way you laugh with me. Her hands tightened around the blanket. I trusted you completely. I know. No, she snapped, looking at me finally. You don't know? Because if you knew what that trust felt like, you wouldn't have destroyed it. With tears streamed down her face again. Seeing her cry because of me felt like being stabbed slowly. I hate that I still love you, she whispered. Those words hit harder than any accusation. I don't want to love someone who can lie to me so easily. I don't want to be that person, I said desperately. I swear to you, I don't. But you are, she replied. The truth settled like dust. I need time, she said finally. I need space to figure out if I can even look at you without feeling sick. I nodded. I would have agreed to anything. Whatever you need. She studied me one last time. I never thought you'd be the reason I can't sleep at night, she said quietly. Neither did I. I walked out of that apartment feeling smaller than I ever had in my life. Days turned into weeks. We barely spoke. I sent messages she rarely answered. Short responses. Polite. Distant. The house grew colder. I stopped using our bedroom and slept on the couch instead, as if punishing myself. I deleted every photo of Maya, blocked her number, avoided the marketing floor entirely. But none of it erased the image of Sarah's face when she read that message. One evening, about 3 weeks later, she agreed to meet me at a small cafe near our house. She looked thinner. Or maybe it was just sadness making her appear fragile. We sat across from each other, like strangers negotiating a truce. I've been thinking, she began. My heart pounded painfully. I can't live like this. Suspicious. Anxious. Wondering every time your phone lights up. I understand, I said quickly. I don't want to become someone who checks your messages. That's not who I am. You won't have to. She exhaled slowly. Maybe we rushed into marriage, she said. The words felt like a crack forming in the ground beneath me. No? I whispered. Don't say that. Maybe we ignored problems. Duh, what problems? She looked at me sadly. The ones that made you look for someone else. The silence between us wasn't loud anymore. It was resigned. I need to know something, she said carefully. If I hadn't found out, would you have ever told me? The question pierced deeper than anything else. And my hesitation gave her the answer. Her eyes closed briefly. That's what hurts the most, she said. And I realized then that the affair wasn't the only thing I had destroyed. I had destroyed the version of me she believed in. And that might have been the one thing I could never rebuild. I opened my mouth to defend myself, but no words came. Because she was right. If she hadn't seen that message, I would have continued lying. Maybe I would have ended it eventually. Maybe guilt would have swallowed me whole. But the truth is, I didn't confess. I was exposed. And there is a difference between regret and being caught. Sarah watched the realization spread across my face. I didn't need to speak. She could see the answer clearly. That silence, she said quietly. That's the truth. I lowered my eyes. I hate that I didn't tell you, I whispered. But you didn't, she replied. The cafe around us buzzed with soft conversation. Spoons clinking against ceramic cups. The hiss of an espresso machine. Life was moving normally for everyone else. For us, it felt like everything was suspended in slow motion. I wake up at night, she continued, staring into her untouched tea. And I imagine you with her. I imagine the things you said, the way you looked at her. Her fingers trembled slightly. And then I start questioning everything about myself. My chest tightened painfully. This was never about you, I said again, though the words felt weaker now. She looked up sharply. Stop protecting yourself with that sentence. I flinched. You chose someone else over me, she said. That automatically makes it about me. A tear slipped down her cheek, but she didn't wipe it away this time. I keep asking myself what she had that I didn't. She had nothing, I said quickly. Nothing real. But she had you, Sarah replied. The weight of that truth crushed me. I leaned forward slightly, lowering my voice. I was insecure. I felt stuck. Not because of you. Because of myself. Work felt repetitive. Life felt predictable. And when someone new paid attention to me, I let it feed my ego. Saying it out loud made it sound even uglier. So I was boring, she asked softly. No, I said immediately. You were stable, safe, and I mistook stability for dullness. That was my failure. She studied my face as if searching for sincerity. I loved that our life was predictable, she whispered. I loved knowing you'd come home every night. I swallowed. I still come home. But I don't know who's walking through that door anymore. The words echoed in my mind. Who's walking through that door anymore? Not the man she married. Not the man she trusted blindly. I reached across the table instinctively, but stopped halfway. Can you ever see a version of us that survives this? I asked carefully. She didn't answer immediately. I don't know, she admitted. And that scares me. We sat there in silence for a long time. Finally, she spoke again. I think we need counseling. Relief and fear collided inside me. Yes, I said quickly. Anything. Her eyes softened just slightly. I'm not promising forgiveness, she added. I'm just not ready to give up yet. That small sentence felt like oxygen after drowning. Weeks later, we found ourselves sitting in a softly lit office across from a middle-aged therapist with calm eyes and a voice that felt almost too gentle for the storm inside us. The first session was awkward. Sarah spoke carefully. I spoke cautiously. We avoided details like landmines. But eventually, the truth began spilling out. I feel humiliated, Sarah admitted one afternoon, her voice shaking. Like everyone knows, even if they don't. No one knows, I said quickly. That's not the point, she replied. I know. The therapist nodded slowly. And what do you feel? She asked me. Guilt, I answered. Constantly. And before the affair, she pressed. I hesitated. Restless, I admitted. Unimportant. Like I was fading into routine. Sarah looked at me. Confusion mixed with hurt. You never told me that. I didn't want to seem weak. So instead, you chose betrayal. She asked quietly. The therapist intervened gently. Affairs are often less about desire and more about avoidance. Avoidance. That word lingered. I had avoided vulnerability. Avoided admitting dissatisfaction with myself. Avoided difficult conversations. And in doing so, I had created something far worse. Therapy became a weekly ritual. Some days, we left holding hands. Other days, we left in silence. Progress wasn't linear. One night, about 2 months after everything fell apart, Sarah woke me up. I had fallen asleep on the couch again. "I had a nightmare," she said softly. I sat up immediately. "About what?" She hesitated. "You leaving." My heart dropped. "I'm still here," I whispered. She sat beside me, her arms wrapped around herself. "In the dream, you packed a bag and told me she made you happier." The pain in her eyes was unbearable. "I would never say that," I said firmly. "But you felt it once," she replied. That was the cruel part. In moments of excitement, I had convinced myself I felt something stronger. But it wasn't stronger. It was just new. Newness can be intoxicating. But it fades. And when it fades, what remains is damage. I was chasing adrenaline, I said quietly. Not love. She looked at me for a long time. "I need you to understand something," she said finally. "Even if I forgive you, I will never forget." I nodded. "I don't expect you to. And there will always be a before and after." Her voice broke slightly. "The version of us before that message, she's gone." A tears filled my eyes. "I miss her too," I whispered. For the first time in weeks, she leaned into me. Not fully. Not the way she used to. But enough to remind me that she hadn't completely let go. And in that fragile embrace, I realized something terrifying. Even if she stayed, even if we rebuilt, there would always be a scar. And scars don't disappear. They just become part of the story. Months passed. Slow healing. Slow rebuilding. But just when I began to believe we might survive this, the consequences of my betrayal found another way to remind me that some mistakes don't end when the affair does. One evening, my phone rang from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. Hello. Silence. Then a familiar voice. Maya. My stomach dropped. "I need to see you," she said. My pulse quickened. "There's nothing left to talk about," I replied coldly. "There is," she said, her voice trembling. "You deserve to know." A chill ran down my spine. "Know what?" She took a shaky breath. "I'm pregnant." The world stopped. The room tilted slightly. "That's not possible," I whispered. "It is." My hand began to shake uncontrollably. "I haven't been with anyone else," she continued. "It's yours." Everything I had tried to repair. Everything Sarah had painfully tried to rebuild. Suddenly felt like glass shattering all over again. And I realized, with horrifying clarity, I hadn't lost everything yet. But I was about to. The phone nearly slipped from my hand. "You're lying," I said, but my voice lacked conviction. "I wish I was." Maya whispered. My chest tightened so hard it felt difficult to breathe. "When did you find out?" I managed. "A week ago." "And you're telling me now?" I needed time to think. A time. The same thing Sarah had asked for. The irony burned. What do you want from me? I asked, already fearing the answer. I don't know, she admitted. I just thought you should know before I decide anything. Before I decide anything. The words echoed ominously. I ended the call in a daze. The living room felt too small, too bright, too real. Sarah was in the kitchen, humming faintly while washing dishes. It was such an ordinary sound, so fragile, and I was about to destroy it again. I walked toward her slowly. Sarah. Oh, she turned, drying her hands. You look pale. What happened? I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. She stepped closer, concern replacing calm. You're scaring me. I forced the words out before courage failed me. Maya called. Her entire body went still. And I felt my throat close. She's pregnant. The glass slipped from her hand and shattered against the floor. The sound was sharp. Violent. Unlike the first time she left, there was no quiet this time. She didn't cry immediately. She just stared at me, as if I had transformed into something unrecognizable. You're joking, she said faintly. I wouldn't joke about that. Silence spread like smoke. Is it yours? She asked. She says it is. She let out a breath that sounded more like a broken laugh. Of course it is. I took a step forward. We don't know for sure, she cooed. Don't. Sarah snapped. Don't insult me by pretending this could be anyone else's. Her eyes filled. But this time, there was something else in them. Finality. I ended it. I said desperately. I haven't spoken to her in months. But you already spoke to her enough, she replied. Each word felt like a verdict. I didn't plan this, I whispered. No one plans consequences, she said coldly. They just come. As she walked past me, careful to avoid the broken glass. Say something, I pleaded. She turned slowly. I am thinking. Her voice was eerily calm. I am thinking about how I tried to forgive you. How I sat in therapy and relived your betrayal over and over. How I convinced myself we could rebuild. A tear slid down her face. And now you tell me there might be a child. The word hung heavy between us. Child. Innocent. Unaware. Permanent. I don't know what to do. I admitted. She nodded. I do. The certainty in her tone terrified me. I can't live my life attached to her forever, Sarah said. Every school event. Every phone call. Every birthday. She will always be there. It doesn't have to mean that. I argued weakly. It always means that. She stepped closer, her voice trembling now. You didn't just cheat on me. You built something outside our marriage. And now it might breathe. Her words sliced through me. I love you, I said, the phrase sounding useless. I know, she whispered. But love isn't enough anymore. That was when the tears came fully. Not loud, not dramatic, just steady. I feel stupid, she said. For staying, for trying. You're not stupid, I said immediately. I am, she insisted. Because deep down, I think I knew the story wasn't over. I reached for her, and this time she didn't step back. But she didn't lean in either. I need you to answer one question honestly, she said. Anything. If she keeps the baby, will you be in its life? The room felt like it was spinning. A child is not responsible for its parents' sins. But the answer would decide everything. I don't know, I said, hating myself for it. She closed her eyes. That's enough. She pulled away gently. I can survive betrayal, she continued. But I cannot survive sharing my husband with a reminder of it forever. I would never choose them over you. But you already did once. There was no anger left in her voice, just exhaustion. That night, she packed again. This time, she didn't hesitate. I need to protect what's left of me, she said quietly as she zipped her suitcase. Please, I whispered. Don't make a decision like this tonight. I'm not deciding forever, she replied. I'm deciding for now. She paused at the doorway of our bedroom. I loved you in a way that felt permanent, she said softly. But permanence requires safety. And I don't feel safe with you anymore. The words were heavier than anything she'd said before. When the door closed behind her, it wasn't gentle. It wasn't loud either. It was firm, like something sealing shut. I stood in the middle of the house, surrounded by the echo of my own choices. The next day, I met Maya. She looked different. Fragile. Afraid. You look like you haven't slept, she said quietly. I haven't. We sat across from each other in silence. Are you sure? I asked finally. She nodded. I took 2 tests. My chest tightened again. What are you going to do? She looked down at her hands. I don't know yet. Why tell me now? Because whether you like it or not, this involves you. Her words weren't cruel. They were factual. I never wanted to ruin your life, she whispered. I almost laughed at the irony. It was already ruined the moment I started this. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes. I cared about you. I know, I said. And part of me still does. That doesn't fix anything. No, she agreed. It doesn't. Silence settled again. If you decide to keep it, I said slowly, I will take responsibility. The sentence felt like signing a contract with consequences. I didn't fully comprehend. She nodded once. I thought you'd say that. When I left that cafe, the sky was gray again. Just like the night everything began. But this time, there was no rain, just a heavy stillness. I went home to an empty house. No humming in the kitchen. No porch light waiting. Just silence. And in that silence, I finally understood something with brutal clarity. Cheating isn't a single act. It's a series of choices that ripple outward. And sometimes, those ripples become waves strong enough to drown everything you ever loved. Days blurred into each other after she left. The house no longer felt like a home. It felt like a museum of mistakes. Her favorite blanket, still draped over the arm of the couch. The tiny crack in the hallway wall, we always meant to fix. The wedding photo hanging above the fireplace. I couldn't look at that photo anymore. Two people smiling like nothing in the world could touch them. I wondered if that version of us would even recognize who I had become. Sarah stopped answering my calls after the third day. Her sister finally texted me. She needs space. Please stop. Please stop. 2 words that felt like a door closing slowly. I went to work because I didn't know what else to do. People looked at me the same. Spoke to me the same. The world had no idea my life was collapsing. Maya sent me a message. I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. I stared at it for a long time before replying. Do you want me there? Her response came minutes later. Yes. I almost didn't go. Part of me wanted to pretend none of it was real. That if I ignored it long enough, it would dissolve. But consequences don't dissolve. They grow. The clinic smelled like antiseptic and quiet anxiety. Couples sat in rows, some holding hands, some whispering excitedly. I felt like an intruder. Maya looked pale when she saw me. Thank you for coming, she said softly. I nodded, unable to find words. When the nurse called her name, my heart began pounding violently. Inside the examination room, everything felt too clinical, too detached from the emotional wreckage surrounding it. The doctor moved efficiently, calmly, and then the sound filled the room, a heartbeat. Fast, steady, real. I felt the air leave my lungs. Maya started crying quietly. I stared at the monitor, at the small flicker that represented something alive. Something that existed because of me. In that moment, the affair stopped feeling like a secret. It became permanent. Outside the clinic, neither of us spoke for a while. It's about 8 weeks, she finally said. 8 weeks. 8 weeks ago, I had been lying in my bed next to Sarah, pretending nothing was wrong. I'm keeping it, Maya said suddenly. The words landed heavily. I closed my eyes briefly. Okay. She studied my face carefully. Are you angry? No. I replied honestly. I don't have the right to be. She nodded slowly. I'm not asking you to love me, she added. Or to come back. I don't want to do this alone. The request was simple, but its impact was devastating. I won't disappear, I said quietly. And in saying that, I knew something had shifted forever. That night, I drove to Sarah's sister's apartment again. I didn't knock immediately. I stood there, rehearsing sentences that all sounded useless. Finally, the door opened before I could knock. Sarah stood there. She looked tired, smaller somehow. We need to talk, I said. She stepped aside silently. We sat across from each other again. Different room. Same distance. She's keeping it, I said. Sarah didn't react outwardly, but I saw her swallow hard. I heard, she whispered. My chest tightened. Heard. She called me. The words stunned me. What? She said I deserved to know. I felt the ground shift beneath me. Sarah looked down at her hands. She apologized. She continued. Said she never meant to break a marriage. I ran a hand through my hair, overwhelmed. I would never ask you to accept this, I said slowly. But I will take responsibility. She nodded faintly. I know you will. Silence lingered. I've been thinking, she said finally. My heart began racing again. I can't be your wife, she said gently. The sentence didn't explode. It dissolved, like something fragile finally giving up. I tried to imagine a future where I'm okay with this. She continued. School events. Shared holidays. You splitting your time. Every milestone reminding me how we got here. Her voice trembled. I can't live like that. Tears blurred my vision. I don't want to lose you, I whispered. You already did, she replied softly. Not cruelly. Just truthfully. She reached into her bag and placed something on the table between us. Our wedding ring. I will always care about you, she said. But I need to care about myself more. The finality in her tone was undeniable. I hope you become a good father, she added. I hope you learn from this. Her kindness hurt more than anger ever could. I'm sorry, I said, my voice breaking completely now. For everything. I know, she replied. But forgiveness wasn't the same as staying. When I walked out of that apartment, I knew I was walking away from the last chance at the life I once had. The divorce papers were signed quietly. No dramatic arguments. No screaming. Just signatures. And silence. Months later, I stood in a hospital room holding my daughter for the first time. She was tiny. Perfect. Completely innocent. Her fingers wrapped around mine instinctively. And in that moment, I felt a kind of love that was pure, uncomplicated, and painfully bittersweet. Because I knew the cost. Maya lay exhausted in the hospital bed. Do you want to name her? She asked softly. I hesitated. Then I said the first name that came to my heart. Because that was the one thing I had almost destroyed completely. Late that night, after they both fell asleep, I stepped outside the hospital. The sky was clear. No rain. No storm. Just quiet stars scattered across darkness. I thought about Sarah. About the life we planned. About the porch light she used to leave on. I had cheated. I had lied. I had chosen excitement over loyalty. And I had lost the woman who loved me without hesitation. But standing there, knowing a child would one day look to me for guidance, I understood something deeply. Regret can break you. Or it can re-break you. I could never undo what I did. I could never erase the pain I caused. But I could decide who I would be from this moment forward. Not the man who avoided difficult conversations. Not the man who chased ego. But a man who shows up. Every day. For his daughter. For the consequences he created. For the lessons carved into his heart. I lost my marriage. I lost the version of myself that once felt honorable. I lost the woman who was my home. and that loss will live with me forever. But as I looked up at the night sky, I made a silent promise. I may have cheated and lost everything, but I will not waste what remains. Because sometimes, the only thing left after you lose everything is the chance to become better than the man who destroyed it.